Oh my goodness.
Okay,
Oh,
ladies and
mercy.
gentlemen. Seeing that fancy intro means that Muffin Oven Productions has now started its live stream again.
We got 20 of the
hello.
100 viewers to actually come over. Hey.
All right, Everett.
Okay, I'm going to drop down the
yeah.
little
Okay.
hingy sign thing for end to end.
Hello and welcome to End to End, the podcast where we talk about all things playing and a few things not. I'm your host, Duhad. Joining me as always are my lovely co-hosts, Corallo95.
Hello, everybody.
The Lightning Rabbit.
Hello.
And Firebolt.
Hello.
So today we are going to actually talk about something we've been failing to talk about for a while now, which is the My Little Pony micro books. We've talked about the first and second arcs of the main series so far, but we haven't actually talked about the micro series. The micro series has been IDW's attempt to write individual, more slice of lifestyle stories about each member of the main six, and moving on from that, the princesses and the CMC and other characters. Now, up until relatively recently, they only recently finished, well, comparatively recently, finished the main series, which would be the 6 main ponies. And they have said that their next thing after the micro books will actually be a series of one-shots involving 2 characters, using different pairings of the characters.
Yeah, that's right. Pairings, yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting idea. But for the time being, what we do have right now are 6 micro books that we haven't actually talked about on the show.
Plus the 7th one for the
Yes,
CMC.
we're going to deal with those later on in a different show where we talk about the non-main 6 micro books, because the micro series is going to end relatively soon. So
All right.
we'll just wrap that all up in one thing.
Yeah.
So let's begin at the beginning with Twilight Sparkle.
Mm-hmm.
The first micro book actually came out around, I think, before the release of issue 2 of the mainline series. And it was kind of riding high off the coattails of the first release.
Well, I think that was the main problem with it, was because it didn't live up to that standard.
Yeah, that's true.
and that was the thing. I don't know whether or not the problem with the book was that it had too high of a standard set for it by the really excellent, first couple issues of the main arc, or if the substandard book that it was ended up getting elevated beyond where it probably would have been because of the popularity of the main book. Either way, it was kind of a disappointment. The art really didn't live up to Andy Price's, the writing wasn't quite up to Katie Cook's, and even the coloring really didn't have that spark that Heather Breckel has managed to bring to her collaborations on the first and third arcs.
Mm-hmm. But for me, actually, interestingly enough, I didn't read the first micro-series comic first. I skipped Twilight Sparkle first, actually, because I heard your opinion of it until I read it myself. And actually, I found it very, I found it enjoyable, but not, of course, living up to the main first arc of the main actual comic series, of course. Because like you said, the art especially, the art and the coloring threw me off for the most part, but I found the story a little bit endearing, and I enjoyed it.
It was endearing, but I mean, after the first arc, people were looking for that same kind of action or whatever, and it was very more.
Pokemon Trainer Gold. He joined, so he's awesome. Anyways.
But yeah, no. The thing was, it had a lot of real. Under other circumstances, it might have made a subpar episode, but the thing is, I judge the comics on the standard of... Thank you. I judge the comics on the standard of the series, and really, if you'd taken this book as its own thing, it really would have made a kind of subpar episode. The story was, for those who haven't read it, Twilight Sparkle goes to a library under orders from Princess Celestia to work with this old librarian. And the whole time, they're very heavily foreshadowing that she was a big fan of this book series whose author mysteriously disappeared. And surprise, surprise, in the end, it turns out the author was the librarian the whole time. Gas! Gas!
I know, right?
The only really standout elements of the book, in my opinion, were the literary references that they made. And they made some pretty fun literary references, including including ones to books that, honestly, I'm kind of surprised they actually referenced. Admittedly, now we've had the main books really go into some pretty mature jokes for the adults, but having a I have no mouth and I must scream reference in one of the Pony comics was actually pretty shocking for me, and it did endear me to the book a little bit more than I think it probably would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
But some side jokes aside, it was really kind of disappointing, which is a shame considering Twilight is such an interesting character who can have so many really good stories told about her. But
it's very true.
For any of the main six.
Yeah. But again, I mean, all this is our personal preference. I do
Yeah.
personally say read it for yourself and see what you think rather than our opinions, because, I mean, they're just our opinions. Personally, for me, though, like I said, I did find it endearing and I enjoyed it, but again, it didn't live up to what I thought it would be, and it wasn't my favorite at all of the micro-series.
No. Though, we move on from that one. What did the Rainbow Dash? That's it.
Rainbow Dash is number 2.
Rainbow Dash is number 2. And
that
let's
one was
actually
kind of weird.
yeah, let me actually just start with the description for this one. Rainbow Dash the micro series issue number 2, Rainbow Dash, was kind of hyped up a little bit more than the first one was. The first one kind of was in the shadow of the mainline series. The second one had the reputation from the first one of not really. It wasn't as hype. Like, people weren't as hyped for it as they were for the first book, because they now had a yardstick to use for the first book, for the second book, which they hadn't had for the first one. And so people were really kind of nervous about it. And the author of the book actually went on record as being the first of the Pony authors, I believe, to really go into the fandom and say, this is what I'm doing, this is cool, this is why you should be excited. And
No, you threw an action in that. Sorry, it just sounds funny to me. Anyways.
Unfortunately, the book wasn't that great. In some ways, it was
terrible.
Yeah.
It had a very strange story to it.
Did.
The basic plot of it was that Rainbow Dash is doing her general thing, flying around, being Dash.
Yes.
When the town gets attacked by gremlins.
Cloud gremlins
wearing aviators and like flight jackets, who feed on negative emotions and rain on people. Like, it was very G1.
It's very G1. You mean where they took over and wanted the hearts of all the other ponies and tried to kill them all?
Well, it's very G1 in that it's a story very much about a relatively simplistic character dealing with a very emotion-based problem, with very, not archaic, but basically, no, this is not, the one I'm trying to think of is, I can't remember the exact name, it starts with an A, but it's when you have something that is not appropriate to the time period deliberately.
Oh, I don't remember what it's called right now. Darn it!
Yeah,
I know
you know what I mean. The point is, that whole theme felt very, very 90s, very G1.
It did.
It is.
I will. Sorry.
And the resolution to it is pretty much believe in yourself, and she believes in herself, hurts her wing, and then Pinky cheers her up with, I'll admit, a pretty awesome David Bowie reference. But yeah, like, this felt like a really good story from G1 rather than a good story from G4, and that I know there's a lot of G1 fans out there, and I respect the hell out of you guys, but for me, it was a really subpar. Yeah, it's like a really, really subpar episode of the show that might have made for a decent episode of a previous gen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I will say though, it's a bigger improvement for the first story actually. For the Twilight one, the art improved actually, the coloring improved also. Not much, but it did have improvements which you noticed, and it was more appealing that way. The story itself, like you said, it was better than the first one as well, but again, it did have a couple lacking areas, and it did feel a bit cheesy overall, but I still enjoyed it. I like the references that were in there as well.
Alex? Oh, sorry, Lightning Rabbit.
Yeah, I liked it.
Wow, thank you.
That was very, very insightful, Lightning.
It's just like I'm trying to maintain the stream and get all the pictures up as you say it, so.
Fair enough, it's okay.
But yeah, I think it's a good one. If we're still on Rainbow Dash, which we are, because I haven't.
We are still on Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, it was good out of all of the comics and particularly the micro comics, but it probably wasn't my favorite.
Firebolt?
I think I was expecting a little bit more, and Rainbow Dash being the kind of character that she is, I thought the story would go in a different direction, but the story itself wasn't bad, but maybe it was just that I was expecting something different.
Yeah, again, it's not necessarily bad, but for the one book in the micro series that is for this character, they could have done more.
Rainbow Dash, you expect over the top a little bit.
Yeah. So, speaking of not getting exactly what we expected, I believe Fluttershy was next.
I think Rarity was next.
Rarity was next.
No, Rarity was 5.
Rarity was later.
No title card for Rarity.
Wait, Rarity isn't 3, is it?
Yeah, Rarity's number 3.
Yeah, she is.
No, she's wait. Hold on.
I thought Rarity is 4.
I have it right here. It says My Little Pony Micro Series, Rarity number 3.
Okay, Rarity number 3. Yeah, I left all my comics upstairs. I have them all like laminated in like the thingy bobber.
Yeah, a special case.
They're upstairs and they're next to sleeping people, so I'm not gonna go after them right now.
Controlled environment.
Okay, so Rarity. You want to bring that up on the stream image thing? Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
So Rarity, the Rarity book was actually the first one released by Katie Cook and Andy Price, which was obviously the first team from the main series
that everyone loved.
Yeah, to work on the micro books. And at this point, they had finished their first arc, and the second arc had started. And I know we've gone over this before, but I will reiterate here that I had personally not been as big a fan of the second arc as the first arc.
Well, the second arc wasn't as good as the first arc, but, I mean, it wasn't bad.
I found it fairly mediocre, though, to be fair. That's not really bad, it's just not great. Anyway, point is, I was disappointed overall with the micro series, and I wasn't exactly loving the new series, even when I didn't dislike it. So this was a shot in the arm for me. Rarity's book was Katie Cook and Andy Price and Heather Breckel proving that even with a little one shot, they could still do something really great.
It was really well done.
The book actually followed a storyline that I really didn't expect them to go with for Rarity, though it does actually make a fair bit of sense. The idea behind it is that Rarity goes to a all-natural salon in order to, paid for by her friends, to get her out of her workspace because she's basically working herself, completely crazy with her obsessive-compulsive, need to work mentality.
Yes.
But when she gets there, it's a kind of terrible place with a few really nice highlights. Mm-hmm. And they actually highlighted an element of Rarity that doesn't really get a lot of attention, which is that she is the one member of the main six who is ostensibly running a small business, like running a successful small business. And Rarity's story in the arc is essentially going from I'm here to relax and have a good time to what I really need to do in order to be happy is not just lay back and relax, but to work. But just to work at something I'm really passionate about. And for Rarity, that ends up being managing a small business and helping it recover. Highlighting both her element of generosity and her abilities as a manager. And I love it when people do that. Like, this is exactly what the micro series should be. A chance to explore elements of the characters that don't get a lot of attention in the show.
Definitely.
And that's why I love this one. And, of course, it's hilarious because it's Andy Price and Katie Cook and Heather Breckel. So there's tons of little side gags. There's tons of funny references. The characters are all very expressive and very cute. But yeah, this one really set the bar for the micro series for me. Cabral?
Definitely. I really I went through and read these with Elliot E-Dragon. I keep using his first name, E-Dragon. And we went and read through the micro series and the whole comic series. We've been reading them together whenever we get a chance. And we definitely wrote the Rarity one because, first off, Andy Price's art and the coloring, I love how it looks. The art style he has, I don't know, it just really captures a lot of facial expressions. What it is. His art, when you look through the whole comics, I don't know if I can bring up like a frame or two from the comic, but the facial expressions just capture so much emotion in the characters when he does them. I really love that about his artwork, as well as Katie Cook's writing. She does a great job of covering characters in certain areas where, as Duhad was saying, you don't see a lot of them. And especially with the Big Mac one that was in the main arc. You see a lot more Big Mac than you normally would compared to the show. But definitely well done, and actually, this is definitely my favorite micro series comic art. I think next to the Kimmer Crusaders.
As a fun point, I always want to throw in before we move on to the next person. This micro book actually K. Cook went on record after before the release of this micro book, essentially saying the original concept we came up for Rarity. Because they had to send, all the comic writers have to send in their scripts to Studio B to essentially go like, is this going to interfere with, or is this going, like, is it going to interfere with, is it going to break canon, or is this going to be too close to episodes that you are planning on writing? And the first Rarity book was actually rejected because it was too close to an episode that they were planning for season 4.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a while ago. So this is actually kind of cool. So we definitely know, and this makes me super happy. We know there is going to be a Rarity episode in season 4, and it's going to be a Rarity episode that is relatively close to something that Katie Cook would write, and that's beautiful.
Well, Duhad's happy now. That's all he needed out of season.
Well, Duhad's happy. He's happy, drunk, and tired. This is a good mixture.
I'm happy about that as well. The idea that there's actually going to be an episode that's that closely related to the comics, which was written by Katie Price, that's a good thing, definitely.
Katie Cook and Andy Price.
Katie Price.
Katie Price. You don't just mix them.
Katie Price Breckle.
It's very late.
That's right.
At any rate.
Or it's very early.
It's 2 a.m. for me.
Yeah. Fireboat, what did you think of it?
Well, the Verity one was definitely a good reprieve after the first two, and it was definitely the best one of the first three. So I there's not too much I can say about it other than that, but I did like the fact that I like the two other main characters, like after the ones that are in control of the farm that she goes to, the two hippies.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah, those guys were really funny.
Yeah. Okay, this is really dumb, but I literally just, like, this is not just me rambling. This is me actually just noticing this for the first time, which makes me feel kind of silly. Like, the sun and moon pattern on her curtains I got is a reference to Celestian Luna, but I just realized that her friend's cutie marks are all over her blanket. Also, someone in the chat has just mentioned, am I the only one who doesn't like Rarity? No, you are not, but all of you are stupid and wrong for disliking her. And that includes Gene, who I really like. He's a good friend, but his dislike of Rarity is a personal failure.
Yeah, in all honesty, for me...
I don't know, like, Rarity probably isn't my favourite character, and also it's not just because she's not my favourite character, it's also she's not very well represented, because that's the element of generosity. I don't think it's difficult to kind of convey that, but they don't always do a very good job, because a lot of the time she's seen doing not very generous things.
Well, the funny thing about that is that in one of the episodes was Sisterhood of Social, Applejack even says you've been doing a whole lot of taking, but you haven't been doing a whole lot of giving.
Yeah. She's the element of generosity. She should know this by now. This isn't a lesson that she should be learning.
Well, okay. Here's two things that I should bring up. One, to be fair, originally her element was supposed to be inspiration, not generosity, which honestly makes a hell of a lot more sense than generosity for Rarity, and honestly makes a lot more sense as something that you'd kind of desire out of a good friend than someone who's constantly giving you things.
I give people things.
Well.
Irregardless, though, I will admit that probably my two favorite members of the main six are Rarity and Fluttershy, and honestly, they're probably the two characters who have to learn their lesson the most. For Rarity, she has a lot of, like, pretty much all of her episodes are about her, rediscovering the fact that, being generous is pretty good. It doesn't seem to really stick. And with Fluttershy, it's, you should actually be brave. I mean, you've learned that you should be brave several times already.
Let's see, there was a dragon, there was a minotaur, there was a hurricane, there was...
Yeah, it's like, I love both of those characters to death. They're easily my favorite out of the main six, and up there with Sweetie Belle, they're easily my favorite characters in the whole series. But they do have the problem where they have to relearn their lesson over and over again. And I kind of feel that's a problem with the writers, but on the other hand, that is inherently also a problem with the characters because of the writers. But
and also the show itself.
Character. I mean,
Also, the show itself is a little girl show.
It is, but still, like the other characters learn their lesson and then move on from that and develop. These two just tend to learn their lesson and then pull bits and pieces from that.
Yeah, but even then, so, there are people like that in the world.
I just thought one of the funniest things. One of the funniest things that I noticed was it was they had Putting Your Hoof Down. Then immediately after that was It's About Time. It's About Time.
Oh. Yeah.
And at the very beginning of that episode, they have Pinkie Pie carrying all of Pinkie Pie's. They have Fluttershy carrying all of Pinkie Pie's decorations, like by herself.
Yeah.
It's like, see, those assortive lessons really worked out for you there, Fluttershy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
And I think that's one of the hardest parts about My Little Pony is that the continuity isn't always there.
The thing is,
some
of the
continuity
is like above and beyond the Call of Duty, and then other continuity just isn't there at all. But yeah, anyway.
I think part of that has to do with the fact that, like, part of the way the series is made, and I think the writers have actually said this is the thing that, because of the way that they have to make the show, they can't actually keep too much continuity in between episodes because they don't know exactly when the episodes are going to air in order. Like, they know which episodes will be at the beginning, which ones will be at the end, more or less where they'll be in the middle, but Hasbro can, flip off the schedule, and if they want to, and this is part of the thing, they want to be able to have the episodes play in any order they want to during the off season, so they can essentially go like, okay, we're going to put 3 episodes in this month, and then we're going to play about 20 in this next month, and we don't really necessarily want to worry about which ones are playing when.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we're throwing in.
The network doesn't care. They'll play like a 2-parter and just leave the second part forever and play it.
Yeah.
Like, they're so bad.
They generally won't play parts of a 2-parter, but that's why they want less 2-parters. They want a lot of episodes they can just throw into random time slots.
They were kind of gambling with the whole Reading Rainbow thing because they had that return reference in A Friend Indeed.
Yeah,
so which was like 3 episodes later.
Yeah, they can get away with little stuff like that, but the thing is, I mean, hell, even the even foreign dub versions of the show will have episodes in really weird orders. Like, there's a lot of episodes. I think in Germany, the wedding episode and the season intro and season finale for season 2 were switched.
Well,
damn it, Germany.
That's not necessarily that big of a deal because the continuity between those 2 episodes there is none.
There really isn't any. But the thing is, it just goes to show that the show writers can't write with continuity as an established fact because there's an entirely fair chance that it's not going to be applicable.
I guess they could do it between seasons. Like you could use continuity between seasons because then obviously they're more separate.
Yeah, you can do continuity between seasons, but within a season, they need to be kind of careful. Anyway, back to the micros. Rarity, we all love Rarity. Moving on from Rarity, I think we had Pinkie Pie?
Fluttershy.
Yeah.
Fluttershy. Right.
Then Pinkie Pie, then Applejack.
As much as I hate to admit it, I kind of keep on forgetting the Fluttershy one, partly because it's kind of forgettable.
It was endearing. It was. I thought.
It's not that.
That's not
also,
too
Roswell,
bad. I forgot the
I don't hate
Applejack one.
haters because at the beginning, when I first started watching My Little Pony, I hated Rarity with a fiery passion that burned within my heart. And then season 2, middle of it came around, and I just found her hilarious. But I can understand why people don't like her.
Yeah. Okay, so Fluttershy. I'm going to go into the story of the Fluttershy issue, and this is the thing. Almost all the other issues, I have little stories about of interesting anecdotes, or interesting things about the writing of it, or little bits of history. The Fluttershy book really just flies under my radar because there really wasn't all that much interesting going on behind the scenes on this one.
Oh, really?
And the story...
Yeah, it was just a Fluttershy story. That's all it was.
Yeah, and the story is pretty forgettable as well. The point of the story is Fluttershy has a secret passion which she's never told anyone about, which is
knitting.
Really crazy knitting.
Yeah. I mean, you expected when she opened the door, I expected it to be her bodies all over the place, or, some collection of
This is
animal
not
hoarding.
Fluttershy said.
I was going to
Well,
say,
I expected,
after
like
you
some
see something
animal
like that,
hoarding.
you
Listen,
expect
I
it.
just want to point out, all right, real quick, we have two people in the stream now who have just said that Fluttershy and Rarity are their least favorite ponies, respectively. Considering the fact that they are my two favorites, I feel deeply sad now.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
you've
you
got-
drunk too, huh?
Okay, then sweet.
I was
Bill.
going to say, you've got drink to make yourself feel better.
Okay, one of them said Trixie is my favorite. It's like the neg of me, and this is a person from Maine. It's like, how can you be so different than me? All right, anyway, Fluttershy.
Everyone but AJ.
I'm just going to make... Well, I'm going to
It's
say
okay.
two
It's all right,
statements
it's
here.
all right.
Number one, since we're on Fluttershy, that links to Hurricane Fluttershy, and we're getting a hurricane on Monday, so that'll be fun. Number two, I forgot about the Applejack one. When I was making the pictures for these, I forgot completely about Applejack.
We'll go get her real quick.
I just thought,
No worries. I don't.
Everyone forgets about Applejack.
Yeah. So sorry,
Who?
everyone who likes Applejack.
Oh, it's okay. You couldn't think of anything. 6. It's all right who you like and don't like. I don't actually hold any grudges. Anyway, so Fluttershy.
Texas don't have apple orchards loving cat.
Her
think
book
they do.
really kind of. Yeah, it doesn't. That's fine. I probably think Applejack's my least favorite of the main 6, but that's pretty much just kind of a. She's my least favorite out of a group of 6 characters. I love all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Applejack is just in the background.
I like her
It's
because
pretty
of
much
the
it.
stereotypical southernness, to be honest. Like, that's the one reason I
Well, you're
like her.
British. You have that right.
I actually have a Southern friend who really likes Applejack because she's one of the few Southern characters who isn't a horrible, nasty stereotype.
Well, unfortunately, I was really disappointed with the fact that her first song that she ever sang solo was a hoedown.
True,
Yeah,
but
basically. The first song she sang was about raising a barn.
to be fair, it was more about her not being a slack-jawed yokel going like, "Oh boy, look at that, we got some apples farm,
Even though
yeehaw!"
that's exactly what she's like.
I mean, heck, the very first episode, she said yeehaw, and she said howdy at the same
Yeah,
time.
but she's also
then she ran a
smart
triangle and
friendly
said
and
soup
charismatic.
on.
Anyway, Fluttershy. You've already started to go already. It's okay. Okay, Fluttershy. Her book pretty much comes down to she has the secret passion. It's knitting. She decides that she wants to knit and come out with her art, but not really. She's actually going to just put up on display and then hide.
Well, yeah,
Then
she goes
an
in
art
disguise.
Then an art critic comes along and says, "This is terrible." And then Rarity and Fancy Pants come along, and Rarity says, "No, it's not terrible. It's awesome." And then all of her friends accept her. And that's it. That's the story. It's literally just Fluttershy has a secret. She decides to put her secret on display. An art critic almost criticizes it, but then Rarity
Almost
says no.
Remember,
And that's it. That's like the end of the end.
Well,
of the episode.
that's a basic Fluttershy episode for you.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
Yeah.
for a Fluttershy episode, and again, I mentioned already that Fluttershy tends to get negative continuity like crazy.
yeah.
The whole lesson of the episode is something that really doesn't apply to the canon. It's her lesson is it's okay to be open about the things you love. But I guarantee that season 4 is not going to have an episode that shows her knitting giant bats made of crochet.
You never know. You never know. You can just possibly see it. I will say, though, the art was a bit of a letdown compared to reading the Rarity one beforehand, I have to say.
Well, yeah, it did come out right after a Rarity one.
Yeah, the art was
really
a bit of a
good.
letdown. It wasn't terrible, much better than the Twilight one, and I think it was actually better than the Rainbow Dash one, too. I'm not sure. I think it's a debate on the Rainbow Dash one, but it wasn't terrible. Like Duhad said, it's one that flies under the radar because there's nothing special about it. It's just, it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of like a scenario. It just happens and it's over, and it's like nothing major or anything like that. So it's not terrible, but it's
bad, but like the thing is, it ends up coming into like Yeah, it almost ends up being one of the worst books in the micro series, if only just because it's got so little going on.
Yeah.
That it's just kind of, there. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just sort of forgettable. Firebolt?
I guess, when I read it, I liked it, but it's like, when you compare it to the other ones, it doesn't measure up necessarily. It's a lot like the show, where I don't just necessarily dislike anything, but there's just some that don't get up to par.
Lightning Rabbit?
The Fluttershy one is, it's, well, like you said, there's nothing really happening there, and it kind of teaches you, especially at the end, that someone more powerful will always come along and back you up if you're about to be criticised. Because Celestia just comes along, and I'd like to point out that that's normally the other way around. Normally, the higher up people will put you down more than they'll defend your rights. But that's not the point. It's not that I have trust issues with the government or anything. No.
You mean the Queen of England always listening in on our calls?
I'm more worried about Parliament. They're the ones that are completely useless. The Queen would be okay, but she's not in power. She's just kind of sat there in her throne room doing nothing. But anyway.
Also, I just realized in the picture, Angel Bunny's holding up a sign that says "Aww" on the bottom right.
Yeah, he does.
Well, yeah. I guess Angel Bunny is in the Fluttershy episode, which just makes it better.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that about wraps up for Fluttershy. Moving on from Fluttershy
Pinkie Pie.
Yeah, as you actually remembered, is Pinkie Pie.
Pinkie Pie was a good story. I liked it.
Yeah, Pinkie Pie. Let's go to the story real quick. Pinkie Pie, like some of the other micro books, the micro books generally, with the exception of probably Rarity and Applejack, really did go with relatively conventional stories.
Yeah.
But Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie's one was actually kind of fun. It was Pinkie Pie apparently has always really loved this one clown. And unlike with other stories like this, where it's like, oh, they've always liked this, or they've always loved that, this one for me made a lot more sense because the idea was that Pinkie had, held up this clown as something of an icon for her when she was growing up, but it wasn't the sort of thing where it didn't make sense that she had constantly referenced him because it was just sort of one of those things where it's like a childhood hero. I don't mention on End to End all the time that one of my big inspirations when I was a kid was Steven Spielberg, because you don't necessarily always bring up your heroes when you get older.
Yeah,
but the story begins.
Bad. Like
Yes.
Hannibal Lecter.
Well, how I love Hannibal Lecter so much. But Pinkie. The story begins with Pinkie and Twilight going to see this clown perform, and predictably, there's this guy there who's kind of sad. But in this sad way that I actually kind of liked, where he's sad but cheerful. Like he's very. He knows he's sad. He knows he's kind of depressed.
Very somber.
Yeah.
He's somber, but he's got an upbeat attitude about it. He's not trying to bring down anyone else with
the
his
whole woe
sadness.
is me. Oh god.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sad, but I'm putting on a smile for other people because darn it, I really want you guys to have a good time.
He knows that his time in the limelight has passed, and he will take it with style and dignity.
Yeah.
So, unsurprisingly, of course, this guy turns out to be the clown, and the clown is actually planning on retiring. So, Pinkie decides that, being Pinkie, she sees this as a problem, and a problem that she needs to fix. And so, she decides to try and fix the problem by inspiring him again, by doing all these tricks that she learned from him.
Yeah.
And another thing I really liked is she fails.
Yeah.
She doesn't fail to impress him. He's impressed. He's clearly enjoying the show that she puts on. But in the end, it's not enough to convince him that his decision that he has made to retire is not a good one. He decides he's still going to retire. She ends up convincing him to open a school and teach people, but he sticks to his original plan of retiring.
Yeah.
And so it's a happy ending because he does end up doing something really nice that Pinky feels appreciative of. But it also kind of has the lesson of, these people are our heroes. These people are the people we live up, we try and live up to, and who we desperately want to impress.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's not about winning. It's not about proving to them that they need to keep on doing what we want them to do and thus winning the social interaction. It's about them being people, accepting them as people, as flesh and blood human beings, or ponies in this case.
Their own lives to make.
And accepting that and growing up with that. And the thing is, honestly, as much as I love to death K.D. Cook and Andy Price, like, I will read anything they release and just adore it. This one actually might well be my favorite of the micro books, if only just because it surprised me so, well with... Definitely. When I went to the Rarity book, I was like, it's going to be great. It's Andy Price, it's K.D. Cook, it's going to be great. With Pinky, I was just sort of like, okay, it's my hopes are back up because of the Rarity book, but it's still a micro book. Whatever. And I read this one, I was like, oh my god, this is so good. It's funny, I'm laughing out loud, I really feel for these characters.
He was LOLing.
I like Pinky a lot in this story. And so, yeah, I'd say in a lot of ways this is possibly my favorite micro book.
Definitely. It's definitely one of my top favorite ones because a lot of the reasons you said. I liked it because I love those scenarios when the protagonist doesn't necessarily win a situation. Heck, Aaron Delta, I think I shared with you guys, not the fans, but you people here in the call with me. I shared with you one of the episodes and the Aaron Delta fail, and I do love those scenarios when the protagonist doesn't succeed. It shows, in some ways, a real-life scenario because you don't always win. And I like that about this as well. The art was pretty good, too. I didn't mind it. It was much better than the Rainbow Dash one, the Twilight one, and the Fluttershy one, definitely. It was enjoyable to read, and, it was a good read overall. And it's definitely one of my favorites of the micro series.
And, yeah.
Firebolt?
Yeah.
I felt that it was one of the better ones. One thing that I really liked about it, one thing that really stood out for me, is that it's a story that really focuses on her element of harmony, which is laughter. And
yeah,
it's a very central theme. And of course, at the very end, he opens up the school to teach other people to make other people laugh. It's very, it's a very central theme that I really thought was a good change, because in the other ones, especially for Twilight and especially for Rainbow Dash, there wasn't much involving their element necessarily. Rarity's was pretty good in showing her generosity, but it wasn't something that they really focused on for the other micro series books.
Any other thoughts on the Pinky book, anyone?
No? Nope.
Okay. So, after Pinky, and we're going pretty quickly now towards the end here. We had...
Applejack.
Really? Applejack? Wow.
Yeah.
We're further than I thought. Applejack. Final book.
Yeah, this one.
This one was
a little bit over the top.
Yeah, if the Fluttershy book was kind of so meh that it ended up really kind of feeling like nothing, not really being too good or too bad.
Yeah,
this is the other side.
It's like Applejack. It is Applejack. This comic. It's just indifferent.
This is kind of probably the other side of that coin, where it's definitely not forgettable. It's kind of hard to forget that they did this, but that's partly because this is freaking weird. The story for Applejack's micro book is, and I'm not making any of this up, that the apple family crop of apples is being stolen and replaced by squashes, by an anthropomorphic squash man
that they call the Sasquatch.
Yes.
Oh
Who
my
thought
God.
that up? What trip were they on when they thought up that? You
And
know?
the story is all about Applejack trying to protect the apple harvest from the
The
Sasquatch.
giant
Which
squid.
somehow they included a musical number in the comic book. Can you see if you can
Yes.
find a picture of that?
They
Like,
had no. You probably can't find that. But here's the thing.
It's in the middle of the comic.
I can
Oh.
see it, but look at that pose. That's just horrendously different.
Just
Please put that up on the stream if
Yeah.
you can.
yeah, just put
Okay.
it. So.
But yeah, Applejack. I wish we'd actually put in a little bit of our information in the books now, but oh well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Applejack's arc, unlike Fluttershy's was just nothing. This one was so
Something.
weird. Not only do we had all these different things, we had a musical number. We had crazy Applejack hiding and setting traps.
We
Look
had
at that
Looney
thing.
references in some ways too. Look at that.
Oh,
What the hell is that?
just what did they even think they were doing? See if you can get a picture of Sasquatch or of the song.
Well, that is Applejack trying to become a Sasquatch, become one with the Sasquatch in order to catch the Sasquatch.
Oh my god.
Also, I will say they had some Looney Tunes references in here. I love where she painted the apples on the rock and they replaced it with squashes.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's a funny bit, but like, my God, this comic went all over the darn place. And here's the thing: the end of the story was the Sasquatch was actually Granny Smith in a robot suit.
Which doesn't even make sense.
As you'd expect, of course.
Granny Smith in a robot suit. What the hell?
And she's the one that told them about the Sasquatch in the first place. The story of the Sasquatch was her,
Oh,
like...
it's a Scooby-Doo mystery. It is. She uses the legend of the Sasquatch to try and freak out her family, and then uses a robot suit in order, like a big disguise, in order to like. That's her. That's her. Right there.
Musical.
The middle bit. That's Granny Smith in a robot suit right there, and she uses it to like mess with her family to teach them the true spirit of whatever holiday the pony celebrates instead of Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah, like a animatronic robot suit.
That's what I do.
Hearts
I
for you,
destroy my
thank you.
whole family's livelihood just to teach them the meaning of what it means to be.
Yeah,
But now-
and here's the thing. And here's the great thing.
Okay, go ahead.
The very end, and I'll let you get to this in a second, but the very end then says, oh yeah, not only does Granny Smith have a robot suit that she uses to fake the Sasquatch, there's also a real Sasquatch.
Of course there is. Why wouldn't there be?
Because, of course, naturally, of course there has to be an actual Sasquatch in canon in addition to the robot suit.
How could they not?
Yeah, exactly. I also have to point out that this, regardless of how weird the comic was, it was comical still. I like that. It was comedic.
It was comedic.
Definitely was. They had a song in the middle of it. How do you do that in a comic book?
So weird, though.
Now,
Like,
I do have to say one thing about the Applejack comic. Because it was an Applejack story, the one thing that they did incredibly right is that it was her entire family. It didn't just focus on Applejack. It was the entire Apple family.
Except for Babs. She died.
Babs isn't part of the Apple family.
Oh, I like Babs.
she
Well, I mean,
doesn't
no,
count,
I mean-
okay?
No, I mean, I like Babs as well, but she doesn't live at Sweet Apple Acres.
Yeah, she doesn't live in Sweet Acres.
That's true.
She's not part of the core Apple family
Right.
that lives on the farm. Yeah.
Delicious.
So, I mean,
Or
that's one thing that's really important about Applejack's character. Anyone that writes a story or does a fan episode or anything, one thing you got to do with Applejack is you got to you got to include her family because it's the most important thing to her.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like,
that's-
just the stream chat and the way I've enhanced that Applejack picture. Oh my god, just look at it first. Look at it.
it's hilarious. It
Really
is
good.
scary.
Terrible. Like, I want to comment on it, but I'm afraid of insulting people if I do.
Who are you going to insult? There's 17 people here.
Impersonating a Sasquatch, so easy. Even a caveman could do it.
Yeah.
I love how she said Bork. What does Bork even mean?
It's like a kind of square jaw. It's really weird.
It's the Swedish chef. Bork.
It's the Swedish chef. You're horrible.
That's so funny. Anyway.
Actually, out of curiosity, has anyone read the Kira Crusaders comic? Because I would like to go over that one if we can.
Alright, sure. As long as we're here, we'll do the CMC one as well, because we all love the CMC.
Because I did like that one,
I didn't get a
actually.
picture for that one. Oh, God.
Go find it. It's not hard to find.
Okay, so, Alex, did you read the CMC one?
Yes, but I'll go on it to remind myself.
Okay,
I'm sure I read it with you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
okay, so the
like
CMC book. Interesting story they decided to go with the CMC book. The art style is actually is actually a watercolor base, which is kind of
like it.
Very unique. The way they decided to work with the backgrounds were, for the most part, very simple compared with the very visually busy style that other comics had used, which was very much a throwback to Andy Price and Katie Cook's style of drawing, which was very reference heavy. And they there was a couple of scenes where they had big crowds, and when they had big crowds, they really went crazy.
Yeah.
But when they weren't doing big crowds, they were really actually pretty subtle. They were very much more like the type of things you'd see on the show than the type of things you'd see in some of the other comics.
Yeah.
So,
see if you can find some visual aid for the backgrounds themselves, so they can see the watercolor compared to like the abstract.
Did we go over the story of it yet?
No, I'm not
yet.
getting the story. But if you want to tell the story, then
we're just talking about the art and how it all looks. Because compared to a lot of the other comics, I personally liked the watercolor look. It's not my favorite. I still prefer Andy Price's art style because it had the facial expression. This one, it was definitely interesting and something different. I personally liked it. I don't know, it had a nice look to it, in my opinion. Yeah, it had that old, the older Disney feel, I think, is what I'm thinking of. In some ways.
Leonard, can you bring up a little bit of example of art?
Yes. There's a really nice one of Rarity, actually, which I think I'll get.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you can get that.
It's funny,
anything you've read.
On the next page, when she goes and
we're breaking a world record.
When she goes and expects...
You scared him away, loving cat! How dare you?
The diamond. There we go. When she inspects the diamond, she looks a bit... I thought she went, like, robot steampunky for a second, but no, it's just that she puts one of those little... magnifying monocles in. I can't remember what those are actually called.
Actually, a fun fact is there's a bit where they're trying out different outfits, and as a massive nerd, I have to point this out. One of the outfits they use, Scootaloo describes as "what a riff," and it is, I think it's Sweetie Belle. I think it's Sweetie Belle, dressed up as the Satellite of Love with outfit bits from Tom Servo and Crow T Robot. It's like, if you can find that scene, Alex, and like put that up on the stream.
It's gonna take a while.
Okay, well, try and find that while you can. It's basically the scene where they're all trying out dresses using the cube creature. While you're finding that, let me explain what the comic is actually about. The comic follows the adventures of the CMC after they have discovered in a cave while trying to get splunking cutie marks a strange creature that can shapeshift into anything it wants to. And
a mimicker.
Yeah, and that thematically with the CMC...
It's basically a ditto that's a rock.
Yes, and thematically with the CMC, it's a creature that can take on any shape it wants to before it finds out what its real destiny is to be. Ooh. And then it fixes into a, fixed shape.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's very, very much a metaphor for what the Cutie Mark Crusaders are doing, as they're trying to discover what their special talent is. This mimicker is trying to decide what its true form is.
There we go. So yeah, any fans of Mystery Science Theater 3000, check it out. It's Tom Servo's head, Crow T Robot's head, and Satellite of Love on her back.
Yeah, it is.
And it's What a Riff, and It Stinks, which is a line from The Critic.
It is.
So yeah, that's
It was a good reference. A lot of people definitely would have cat, but again, you get to see the art style. Personally, I do like it. Again, it's different, but the eyes kind of bug me on it. I don't know why. I was looking at all the comics, and the eyes bug me a bit.
they're weird. Oh, actually, real quick, I'm not gonna go into this too much right now, but over just the other day, yesterday actually, I went to a live riff with the original creators of Mystery Science Theater 3000, riffing Night of the Living Dead, and that was amazing. Love those guys so much. Anyway, point is, great stuff. Glad that they incorporated that into the comic. The story continues with the CMC finding this mimic. They decide they want to hang out with her, and they kind of selfishly decide that they want to. They ostensibly want to, help her find out what she should be.
Help in quotation marks.
Yeah, but being little kids, the idea of helping others kind of comes down to what can we do for ourselves.
What do we want her shape to be?
And so in the end, they kind of abuse the hell out of their friend, and she, rejects them, gets depressed, and they learn their lesson and send her back home.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Letter to Celestia.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they did do that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So that's the CMC comic. I think we've at that point by now we've actually gone through all 7 of the main 6 plus CMC books.
Yeah.
Yay us! I kind of wish that the what is that balloon? That is the Satellite of Love. That is not what you think it is.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
not what you think it is. Let me cat. No, it's not.
Mystery Science
Satellite.
3000.
Yeah, which is
Close
actually a really
enough,
hilarious show.
but yeah,
It's
that's
shaped
not-
like a dog.
For the benefit
you
of
just can't
everyone
see the
watching
other
this on
side.
YouTube, this is what the person in the
Nope.
chat said. No.
No, it's shaped like a dog's bone, with like and it's the Satellite of Love from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, I see how it looks like.
With
What
two
you
I
said.
don't know why. When I read AB, I thought Alec Baldwin for some reason. Why does
Alec Baldwin have that on his back?
Anyway, so let's get down to the final part of this comic-y thing. Namely, what is the best and what is the worst?
I like the Celestia micro-series. I think that counts as what we were talking about, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll do.
So
my 2
we didn't talk about the Celestia micro comic.
Doesn't matter, that's my favourite one.
Nerds.
I have to say, Rarity's still my favorite because of Andy Price's. I just can't get over his facial expressions, how they work. I just love how they look. So you should probably plug in your laptop. By the way, couldn't think of anything.
Wait, who's that?
Yeah.
I was wondering. Anyways,
Lightning round. What's your favorite? Actually, let's go favorites all around first, and then we'll go least favorites all around. So, Cabral, your favorite was Andy Price, Katie Cook, and Hedda Breckel's Rarity comic.
Yeah.
More than fair. What was your favorite, Lightning Rabbit?
I thought I said. No, I guess the Rarity one was quite good. I didn't really say much about that, but that was definitely one of my favourite ones.
Okay, and Fireball?
I think I'm gonna have to go away from you guys and go with the Pinkie Pie one.
Okay, I'm actually going to join you there. I love the hell of the Rarity book, and I actually kind of think it's probably better than the Pinkie Pie book. But the Pinkie Pie book surprised me with its quality, whereas the Rarity book, I expected it to be as good as it was. So, credit where it's due, the Pinkie Pie book absolutely surprised me with how good it was, and that sticks out in my mind. So, and actually, they're coming. The team behind the Pinkie book is actually coming back to do the next arc after the Cadence Shining Armor one.
oh, okay then. Which I look forward to the end of that.
Yeah, I'm going to be happy about that. So, yeah, we're going to say 2 for Pinkie, 2 for Rarity. Now, least favorite book. We'll start with you again, Lightning Rabbit.
Least favourite book? I could say... I mean, the micro series, apart from 1 or 2, the micro series isn't really my favourite arc of books.
Who is it?
Hi.
Oh, Everett's back.
Everett.
Yeah.
Hey,
Go away, Everett.
a little bit longer there, Everett. We're actually in the middle of recording right now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to cut it out.
No, you
alright,
don't.
it's okay.
Don't worry about it.
So good.
But yeah,
So good.
I don't know. The micro series isn't my favourite series of books really anyway, but I'd say my favourite ones, apart from the ones we haven't talked about, are... my least favourite ones, sorry, are the Fluttershy one, because nothing really happens, possibly the Applejack one, because it's just, where the hell did that story come from? They just weren't very interesting, or they were too over the top.
Too
and
too
therefore
interesting.
not interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying the Applejack book was the worst for you?
Yeah, wait. Yeah, Fluttershy or Applejack.
I say
Okay,
Fluttershy
so-
because Applejack is interesting enough.
Okay, Carol, what was your least favorite?
That's a hard choice because, like I said, I like them all fairly to a certain extent, but I mean, like, I'd probably have to say the the first one, the Twilight one, probably, just because the fact that the others were more interesting to me than the Twilight one. I mean, the art really threw me off for the Twilight one, and that really lowered it for me. So,
Yeah.
but the story was endearing, but again, it's just the art that was there.
So which one do you like then? What would you say is your least favorite then?
The first one.
Just the first one? Okay.
Yep.
Firebolt?
Yeah, I'm gonna join Cabral on that one because I thought the Twilight one was just meh, and it didn't do anything for me. So
Fair enough. For me, I think the microbooks have the microbooks have two high points for me, which would be Rarity and Pinkie Pie, and two pretty darn low points, which would be probably go with Twilight and in fact, actually, I'd say in far as stupid stories go, Twilight and Applejack probably have the worst stories. Fluttershy's just kind of meh, and what is it? I'm trying to remember. Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash is not really all that good, but she's also not really that bad.
Yeah.
The CMC books is pretty average. It's good average. It's enjoyable average. But actually, honestly, as much as I think the Applejack book might have the stupidest damn story, and the Twilight book might honestly be the worst written and arted, I'm probably going to throw in my worst pick to Fluttershy. She quite possibly is my favorite of the main six, but it's not even that her book is the worst, but it's so boring. It is so boring that it ends up actually being more annoying. I didn't even dislike it when I was reading it. I actually enjoyed it while I was reading it, unlike the Twilight book, which I just found really irritating. But the thing is, the Twilight book, I think, was probably the worst. But if I had to pick the one I least enjoy now, thinking back on it, the Twilight book at least gives me something to complain about. It's at least interestingly bad. Whereas this one, the Fluttershy book, is just meh. It's so meh.
It's bland.
Yeah, Fluttershy. So we got 2 votes. So we got 1 vote Twilight, 1 vote Applejack, the second vote Twilight, and 1 vote Fluttershy for worst. So consensus kind of aims towards Twilight Sparkle is worst. Micro book pony.
Which was bound to do first the worst.
Yeah.
Second the best, though. That doesn't work either.
Third the best.
The
bronze
chest. That's worse.
Bronze is the best. Bronze is the best because it is the most useful historical metal. Gold is useful nowadays as a conducting metal, and silver has some uses, but bronze, if it wasn't for that, we would have never advanced.
Well, you probably have to go with aluminum. Aluminum.
Yeah, we only use that now, though. I mean, bronze particularly, because things like those sort of metals, like copper, stuff like that, all of that's still used today. Copper can be used as a conducting element for heat and stuff like that.
But if you're going with gold metal, bronze, silver metal, bronze metal, bronze is the
What about platinum?
Platinum's just rare and therefore expensive. I don't really think it does anything that's useful. Like, gold is at least useful because it's a good electrical conductor.
This is true. So is copper. Copper's pretty useful, actually.
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
so I think
Copper,
we're
all
getting
that
off the
stuff.
point of the third book was really good, and that's, so what's
The third
the
book is really good.
Oh, is that what you were trying to reference? I thought you were actually trying to be scientific about something.
no,
but I didn't know what.
like first place, second place, third place. Third place is like the third book is Rarity, which
Yeah,
I think we
get
can
what
all
you're
agree is probably like arguably the best of the bunch, with its only real competition coming from Pinkie Pie, and that was fourth, and there's no real medal that we have established for fourth. So
It's just a shame that
gold
the best one is
right.
about one of my least favorite background characters. Oh.
Rarity. Oh, jeez, dude,
Oh.
really?
Yeah,
Rarity.
I went in.
Jeez, man, you really hit me hard there.
Yeah.
That hurt. That
Probably
hurt real
slammed
bad.
you there.
I'm feeling burnt. I got burns
I'll take
all over
you.
my body.
I'll call the ambulance and they'll take you down to the sick burn ward.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need
Hold on.
intensive care after that. Yeah.
Call the ambulance. Okay, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
What are we gonna do now? We ended end, right?
We're ending
end.
end to end.
I think we're gonna end to end. So, since we were talking about the comics, and we're talking about the comics that go way the heck back to the original release of the original books, almost as long as far as that. Let's end off with a classic of end to end, something we haven't done forever,
Just quickly.
and that
Do
is
that.
Cooper. Oh, what was it?
I was just going to say, I thought it was funny because I thought we were going to talk about the Nightmare Night thing, so I thought we were going to go, so speaking of all the comics and all of this, let's talk about Nightmare Night, which has nothing to do with any of that, but no. Carry on.
well.
We're
We
gonna
can talk
reference
about that for fun afterwards.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll briefly talk.
bonus content.
We'll record a little bonus content and actually upload that on Halloween itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we do that though, Cabral, what did you learn today?
Dear Princess Duhad, today I learned that Lightning is a real rude jerk to you, and I hope that he learns to be kinder, be a gentler rabbit.
Lightning Rabbit, what did you learn today?
I've learned that it's not fun to make fun of your friends because it makes you sad. No, it doesn't. No
It
regrets.
actually makes your friends sad.
Lol.
Yeah, it makes your friends
Fireball, what did you learn today?
Today I learned that I get really racist at night.
You do? Well, I missed all of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
God we
that's-
didn't actually record any of that.
Yeah.
No, none of that was
Yeah,
recorded.
I would tell you about it, Lightning Rabbit, but I actually don't want to go into it because
Yeah.
it's not really bad, but I don't want to embarrass.
It's not racist, like racist, but it's just...
No, it's kind of racist.
It was
God damn it,
stereotypical. It wasn't racist.
Okay, yeah, that's fine then.
But we're not going to talk about who you were being racist against because we don't want to offend anyone.
It wasn't the French, actually.
Yeah,
it
which
was
is
quite
surprising because normally that's what we do. But anyway,
Anyway, what did I learn? Well, I learned that Twilight and Rarity may be wonderful characters, but only one of them can have a good comic. Anyway, we'll see you guys next
Sweetbell.
time.
Yes.
Sweetbell is best CMC. And apparently some people actually think that Rarity is worst pony and that Trixie's best pony. They live in a bizarro world that I cannot comprehend. Anyway, see you next time.
oh, goodbye. It was abrupt.
So,
Everything's
His own ending?
We're done.
So we're doing an a cappella outro music this time.
my
There is
God.
no...
Okay,
It's not even a cappella. We're just like humming.